everyone, Josh, we're here from the Guard, and we're back to a new Simpsons review, and you're filled in the last one. Go and check it out, and this is another good episode. So the episode starts with Smithers handing these papers, pretty much, these notes to Mr. Burns of this big race thing that's happening. And yeah, and the guy in the microphone keeps repeating the exact same thing for some reason. I don't know why. And obviously, Marge is like, what if she was a driver and a race car driver? And Bart is like, you missed the race. And she's like, maybe I should pay more attention. And obviously, Smithers giving some beer to Mr. Burns. And he's like that it just doesn't sit well with him. So he goes and gives him a regular spoon and gets him some binoculars, which they go too fast for him. Yeah, too fast for Mr. Burns to see. So he tells Smithers to go and tell them to go slower for him. Which, yeah, they go slower for Mr. Burns. And his hand thing, whatever you call those things, is too big for him. So Smithers goes and gives him a better one. And then Lenny comes. Lenny comes and starts acting, being all weird like, and Mr. Burns obviously being freaked out. And Smithers obviously sees Mr. Burns is in trouble, and yeah, him all freaked out. And Mr. Burns like, you should have seen that evil murderer look in his face, in Lenny's face, and Mr. Burns saying that Smithers saying that it's all his fault, and he's let him down, and he's never going to forgive himself. And then, after he closed the window, Smithers calls on the phone and just keeps repeating the thing that he keeps doing, like it's his fault. So, to make it up to him, he pretty much organized his breakfast for him. And pretty much did with this and newspaper that he can't even do the puzzle, pretty much. And yeah, Smithers obviously making a mess out of himself and trying to drown himself, pretty much, I guess is what it seems. And saying that he can't leave because, well, Mr. Burns tells him to take a vacation, pretty much. Because, yeah, Smithers does need a vacation. And he says that then he would be just being all left dead, pretty much, if he did it. And Mr. Burns is like, that's the chance that he would have to take. And he's saying that he's a grown man, that he doesn't need to be burped or something. And he burps, pretty much, not to be looked after. So he tells Smithers to get a replacement, or a substitute, pretty much, while Smithers is on vacation. So he tries to look for some subjects some things that actually fit Homer, and it's those 714 matches found. So he just pretty much chooses Homer. And Lisa says this thing about with Mr. Burns, and Marge is like saying the same thing, and she's like, sorry, come up with your own catchphrase next time. And Smithers showing Homer where obviously Homer's going to be using Smithers' chair and telling him everything that he needs to do. Yeah, it's pretty much showing him everything that he needs to do, and Mr. Burns' mom calls, and he says that he's in an important meeting right now, which, yeah, he pretty much just trying to keep himself awake. Which, yeah, he pretty much trying to brush his teeth, and he says to just go and take a vacation. And he wonders who's the substitute in it, and he's like, that's Homer Simpson, sir. Or, it's Homer Simpson, sir. And he's like, Simpson, eh? Again, the whole gag. And yeah, he pretty much just is about to leave, and Homer obviously trying to tell Smithers of what he needs to do, which, yeah, he probably obviously can't hear him, because, well, he leaves, and Homer specifically asks him, what does he do if there's a fire, and obviously he says it right on cue, pretty much, which he starts to put it out, and Mr. Burns obviously gives these orders for Homer to do, while Smithers is obviously away. And he tells him to repeat it, but obviously he just goes and does it. And at 4:30 in the morning, Homer obviously having to wake up, and Marge saying, poor Homer, and then just starts snoring. So yeah, he's at Mr. Burns' mansion, and is having to fix some breakfast, and he's kind of not doing it exactly what you would say him. Like, he's messing every single subject. Even the cereal turns to fire. Yeah. Everything that Homer cooks is having fire, is getting put on fire. Which it kind of reminds me of SpongeBob trying to make something other than Krabby Patties, and all he can make is Krabby Patties. This is pretty much what Homer's doing. Everything that he's trying to do, the food he's trying to cook, gets put on fire. Which, yeah, he brings them donuts, and he's like, he doesn't want donuts, and to tell him how the things are on these things on the paper, and gives him these dentures, which he wants the veins ones, and obviously Homer waiting for the whole thing, and pretty much giving him these things about his car. And yeah, a phone call that Homer has to do. And it's Smithers. He's just checking in. He's just checking in on Mr. Burns and wondering if, since it's a good time, he can send some mail. Mr. Burns can send him some mail and he can open it. And Mr. Burns saying that Homer is getting more stupider than by the minute. But he's alright. Homer obviously so tired that he can barely sit up straight, and Marge telling the kids to go away and to leave Homer out alone while he falls asleep. And obviously, Homer calls him. He calls him with this giant megaphone, which he rings a bell, and he tells him that the phone's been ringing for minutes, that he needs to answer. Yeah, because Mr. Burns cannot answer the phone that's right next to him. He only lets Smithers, or, of course, in this case, in this case, Homer, answer the phone. And, yeah, it's pretty much Smithers, and he's worried because he's been trying to call him for so long. And Smithers obviously saying it's fine, and then we see a montage of, obviously, Homer keep failing at every single thing. Like, getting mad at Homer every single bit. And Homer freaks out, and he punches Mr. Burns in the face and knocks him out. And obviously, him all freaked out, because now Mr. Burns has a black eye. Him all freaking out, runs home and starts crying next to the door and saying that he killed Mr. Burns, pretty much. I mean, we already covered that subject of him saying that he killed Mr. Burns of him shooting him, but he didn't. But him saying that he punched Mr. Burns in the face, and Marge and Lisa telling him why not go and try to apologize, if he's alive, of course, which he goes to Mr. Burns' office and tries to apologize, and he's not at his desk. He's hiding behind a plant, and he's all scared at Homer and saying, like, get away from me, you monster, and he doesn't want no harm from him anymore, and he tells him to leave him alone. And Mr. Burns obviously having to try to use the phone, because again, he normally has Homer, or in this case Homer, or obviously Smithers, call the phone for Mr. Burns, and he gets most, which again, he starts saying all this stuff about baiting him and stuff, if he finds him, pretty much, kind of like he says with Bart, and yeah, he pretty much just hides back behind the plant and wondering where Smithers is, and Smithers having the sense that something's in danger, and everybody just falling down, and yeah, Mr. Burns is really getting frightened with Homer, and Homer comes back wondering if he would want to do some coffee for him, which, yeah, he's saying that he's doing the coffee. He leaves, and Homer comes back and he's like, he's done the coffee, and yeah, pretty much Mr. Burns he's like, I think he said he's like 100 and something years old, and I know they said several times, and he's not able to make his own coffee, pretty much. Yeah, because look, he said he's been stomping on it, trying to get the coffee out, and yeah, his office is a mess. And Homer obviously wondering if he needs to do something, and he's saying absolutely not. And Homer saying if he needs to drive him to his house, and he's like, no. And yeah, he keeps running into things, even crashing into some post, and obviously the chief of police saying that's some reckless driving there, Mr. Burns, with a smile. And Mr. Burns obviously saying that Homer did of what it seemed to be absolute horrible, of course. And Smithers comes in at the time of Homer obviously hugging Mr. Burns hugging Homer, and yeah, Smithers is all shocked, and yeah, Mr. Burns pretty much then fires Smithers. Yup. And he's like, like, tough luck there. You should never have gone on vacation. And of course, Homer being very sad of getting Smithers fired. And Marge saying that there's got to be something for Smithers to do. And Lisa as well, which he goes to a piano movers kind of place of moving pianos, which yeah, he pretty much messed up his back, and he tries to announce on the megaphone at the race, but yeah, obviously it doesn't work, and he tries to get a job at Moe's, which Homer pretty much give him an encourage to do whatever it takes to get back, which yeah, he pretty much says that you're right, and of course he's going to need Homer's help. Smithers is going to need his help, and obviously Barney has already gotten to the beer. And so they tried to do the plan of getting Mr. Burns' mom on the phone, and while she's pretty much talking back at Mr. Burns, Smithers will jump in and save the day. But it kind of goes wrong. Well, it seems to be going right. Mr. Burns' mom calls and starts yelling and stuff and about Mr. Burns, and obviously he puts her on hold, and Homer needs to put pretty much translate it to Mr. Burns' phone so Mr. Burns can do it. But he accidentally presses disconnected, which, yeah, the plan has started to backfire, and yeah, Mr. Burns seems like he's actually being fooled, but nope. Even though Homer's trying to act like his mother, he pretty much gets caught in the act, and Smithers gets caught in the act too, and he's glad that he fired Smithers. And obviously Smithers then starts to attack Homer, and they start having a fight. And Mr. Burns trying to get them to stop, and yeah, pretty much they just keep fighting and fighting. Mr. Burns still trying to make them stop. And Mr. Burns then goes on to the bear that he has in his office. And eventually, Homer backs up all dizzy and knocks Mr. Burns out of the window. And he falls several stories down. And yeah, they're in trouble. And yeah, that surprisingly does not kill Mr. Burns. Because yeah, Smithers is back to taking care of Mr. Burns, obviously. And having, of course, Bobo with him, fresh from the dryer. And telling Smithers, hopefully, Mr. Burns has gotten, or telling Smithers that hopefully Homer got what he deserved. And yeah, it's a thank you. It's a thank you note with all these fruits and vegetables, or all these fruits and stuff. And you would think it would be something horrible, but no, it's a thank you basket with all kinds of treats in it, and they're wondering how he managed to get this, and Homer's like, he knocked Mr. Burns out of several stories down, and yeah, they pretty much just start eating, just continue eating. Again, a real funny way to end the episode. Because, again, you would think that after Mr. Burns saying, hopefully Homer gets exactly what he deserves, and then you think it would be something horrible, but no, it's just a thank you basket with fruits and, like, bananas, grapes, and different kinds of goodies in it. But it is good to see that Smithers, after a vacation, him being back with Mr. Burns, as it should be. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Hit the like button, subscribe if you need to. My phone notifications turned on, send me anything new, and let me know what y'all think. Catch y'all next one.